Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot, Chris. All right, I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting of Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. It is 1:03 p.m. We are a little late, as always, because of the chair, myself. And we are on a digital platform today. Because we are on a digital platform, we will not be taking any votes in committee. We will simply be reviewing items for our upcoming agenda on Thursday evening. We have 8 items on our listed agenda today, but we're actually going to begin by briefly discussing a 9th item related to a resolution accepting a sponsorship from the United States Air Force. Mayor Slaughter?
Yes, good afternoon. Master Sergeant accidentally got kicked out, so he's going to be rejoining here in a moment. But yes, what this is a $9,500 sponsorship from the United States Air Force, and that's my apologies. I was thinking it was on finance. It's on public safety, but the Master Sergeant will join back on here in a minute. And really, all it is, the United States Air Force via Master Sergeant Leo Knight Inglesby, who's our local recruiter here, asked about sponsoring some of our recreation in our parks, and of course, we gratefully accepted. And they can do up to $10,000 within the recreation sector. And so the only part that we have requirements, so to speak, is that we have to put on the backboard the United States Air Force emblem and airforce.com. Other than that, there's no strings attached, so to speak, to this money. It's just a straight sponsorship from the Air Force that we were, as I said, humbly accepted. So here's the Master Sergeant signing on now. I'll let him, if he wants to just say a few words. Master Sergeant, can you hear us?
I can. Forgive me. I'm not sure what happened there, but I took advantage and gave you guys a color photo as well.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So I just gave them the brief background on the sponsorship up to 10,000. And that the only requirement, so to speak, is that we do the emblem, the United States Air Force emblem on the backboard, and the airforce.com as well. And so, I said that obviously we were gratefully accepted the sponsorship of United States Air Force, and that you were our local recruiter that spearheaded all of this, and we're fortunate to have you here. And I didn't know if you wanted to say a few words briefly around the recreational and the sponsorship. And you're muted. I'm sorry, Master Sergeant.
My heavens, I'm all over the place today. Forgive me. Yeah, no, first and foremost, thank you guys. Thanks for having me out on this meeting today. As the mayor said, I am a local transplant, I guess you could say. I've been here for about 2 years. My wife and I, we live here in Losac, and my whole life, I'm a Carolina boy. I was always raised to be wary of those from north of the Mason-Dixon line. I got to say that we've been welcomed with nothing but open arms, not only from the mayor of the city of Williamsport, but so when the mayor and I had our first conversation about this, it seemed like a no-brainer. I've talked with a lot of people in my position as the Air Force recruiter in this town, and the overwhelming majority says they just wish they had more things that their children could do around town. From other people I've talked to, I understand that it used to be if you got booted off the court at Memorial Park about 5-10 years ago, it was a 2-hour wait before you could get back onto the basketball court. And so if there's, I think this is a no-brainer for when I pitched this to our marketing team, it was a no-brainer. Everybody was on board with it. If we can do anything to kind of give back to our community, well, I can. I'm the Air Force representative here for 5,500 square miles in north central Pennsylvania. And it just so happens this is where I live and this is where my office was. So again, it was a no-brainer. I think this will be a mutually beneficial partnership for all of us. And yeah, I'd be happy to take any questions, or if any of you have any relatives between the ages of 17 and 39 that are looking to join the Air Force, I'll take that information as well.
I have a granddaughter that's signing up in Arizona.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I don't know if that counts, but
I was just thinking that, Randy, you've done your part.
yeah.
And mine are still about 14 years away from being old enough. So, but we'll certainly spread the word, Master Sergeant.
Oh, no, that's unnecessary. I think backboards will do the trick just fine.
I think you'll hit some of your target market there. I would agree. So Derek, where are we planning to locate these again?
So there's going to be 2 in Memorial, 2 in Youngs, and 2 in Shaw.
Oh, good. Okay. And got it. I'm just trying to think. All right. Well, that's certainly
down the road a little bit. We'll talk about some of the resurfacing items. We're putting some of that together as well for council's review, but we're not to that point yet. So that'll be coming to council at some point as well.
Got it. So we're accepting this funding, and our long-term goal is to resurface the courts and then use this funding to put in new hoops, right?
Right.
Okay.
Also,
and there's no timeline for spending on the funding. We're not obligated to have it up before the end of the season. Okay.
No, we just had to get it to the fiscal year for the United States Air Force was September 30th. So we just had to get it in front of council prior to that. That's why we're here now. There's no deadline. We're looking to do sort of the unveiling, so to speak, maybe Memorial Day next year. I was talking to the Master Sergeant and folks at the Air Force. It would make sense to do it sometime around Memorial Day if it works out for everyone's schedule. So when the weather breaks, get the resurfacing. We're also looking at the pickleball court and the tennis courts at Shaw. So, but we'll bring the resurfacing plan once we finalize that and bring that to council for review as well. But we're looking at Memorial, Youngs, and Shaw. As Lois already has the DCNR grant, that work's going to start in September as well. We already have that secured, so we didn't need to worry about Lois for this one.
Good. All right. Well, that's excellent. And is that all the hoops we have in the city aside from the ones that aren't city owned?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
That's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember if we had any at Newberry or not. Okay. All right. Eric, do you have any questions? I'm sorry, Randy.
I do not.
Okay.
I don't have any questions. Just we're grateful and thankful for your contribution to the community, and it fits right in with our vision to upgrade our parks and recreation across the city. So thank you very much.
Right. Yeah, I think we're committed to. Sorry, Master Sergeant.
I was just acknowledging that and say my pleasure. Yeah, this community has been great to my wife and I really, it wasn't very hard to make this sell. So it's not no sweat off my back to do this.
Great. Well, Derek, the one thing I'd say is I'd recommend maybe you could reach out to Council President Yoder, or I could. I don't particularly see any reason to review this item in 2 committees. So if we've reviewed it in finance, then perhaps we can drop it from tomorrow's agenda. If you wanted to shoot him a text here quick or something like that, we could. That way you could establish that. But I think we're all excited about the funding, and I think it will clearly provide some basketball hoops. In my experience, Master Sergeant tend to be pretty much the most popular, with the possible exception of playgrounds, the most popular facilities at all of our city parks. So it should get you some good exposure, and this will be, I think, the citizens of Williamsport will be exceptionally grateful for new hoops and improved hoops. That'll make a big difference in the parks, and they'll get a lot of use. All right. If there is nothing further, then I think we can move on. Thank you very much for coming today, sir, to make the presentation.
Yes.
My pleasure. Happy best wishes to all of you. Stay happy and healthy.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Okay, moving on then. Derek, do you want to reach out to Adam, or you want me to quick?
Yeah, I can reach out to him. It's fine. I can shoot him a quick one.
Okay, yeah, either one's fine. I was just thinking that would save you and the Master Sergeant some time tomorrow. So
No, that works. Thanks. I'll shoot him a text.
yeah. All right. Let me see here. Moving on then. Well, actually, I should ask quickly what I intended to ask before we started the meeting. Does anyone have any reason why they need to get out of here? Mr. Livermore, do you have pressing things? Randy, I know you have a reason you need to get out of here.
I'm good.
I got time.
Okay, all right.
Got an hour.
Okay, then we'll just take the agenda as it comes from here. Item number 1 is a resolution authorizing a consultant agreement between the City of Williamsport and Government Finance Solutions. Mayor Slaughter.
Yes, what you have before you for your consideration is a resolution between the city and Government Finance Solutions. As you know, the end of June, had a position open, and Tracy Rash resume came before us. And with her years of experience and knowledge and pretty much everything government financial related, we felt it was a good fit for the city of Williamsport to bring her experience here, 32 plus years of between director of finance, accounting, you know, pretty much everything related to financial matters in the city. And so auditing services. And so we thought, you know, with that level of expertise, it was a good fit for us here in Williamsport. And so we brought her on board. She's doing a great job. And this is before you today for your review. And I do have Tracy, Chairwoman Mealy. She's here with me, just so you know. She's on board, and she can answer, her and I can answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
I was wondering who that person in your background was. Hi, Tracy. Nice to see you. Okay. Yeah, I do think that there are probably a number of questions on this agreement. So let me first open it up to the other members of the committee. Randy, Eric, what questions do you have?
I'll let Eric go first.
Being that we have a consultant in that position now, and we have had for some time, I'm more curious. Number one, how long how much have we been billed for already since we had the conversation initially? And secondly, what is the directive that she has been given as a consultant? Is she just in there reviewing the books? Is she in there with a particular objective for her? And then we have an end result. And then we're going to look to hire a permanent position. So what is the game plan there?
Sure, and I can let Tracy speak to this a little more, but it was basically to get us back on sound financial footing, to get everything reconciled, get all the reconciliations done, get all of our audit information out so that they could get completed. You know, everything just about finance related. That we have here in the city, but I'll let Tracy, I guess, talk a little more. And she does do, she would look to work with us, look at the office, the Department of Finance, recommend, you know, a finance director moving forward once we're back on solid footing and fill that position moving forward. But it's essentially her job to get us there and then let someone else come in to take it from there. But I'll let Tracy speak to a little bit about what she's been working on, what she's been doing, and you know, tasks she's been completing.
So I have been here periodically for the past month working on a variety of projects. And I'll recap them very quickly. It's pretty extensive. There were my first experience with the office was that there's piles of papers that are not organized or had been gone through in a while. So upon going through those, they resulted in a variety of projects. And so just to recap quickly by department, with respect to fire, you have federal grants that have not been reported on in over a year. So you're in violation of those grant requirements. I've been working with the fire chief on accumulating information in order to catch those federal grants up, and so that you're eligible to draw down the rest of the money on those grants. In talking with FEMA on your behalf, I found that you had been asked to provide information on a FEMA monitoring back in December, and you had been unresponsive to those requests for documents. So I'm working with the chief to comply with FEMA's requirements for that monitoring. Also, there's some state grants that you're required to be reporting on. The chief and I are meeting on Friday to complete those state reporting requirements within the time frame that's required. I've also met with both the chief of police and the fire chief on budgeting for next year, provided them the information from the system, which in a moment I'll address that. The information in the system is inaccurate. The financial reports that are coming out of your systems have not been reconciled since 2019. So I'm attempting to get all of the cash reconciled since 2019 so that your internal records will be accurate at that point. But at this point, they have what's in your system so that they can begin working on 2023 budgeting. I've also attended the fire department's pension meeting. With respect to just general things that I found in the finance department, I filed the quarterly taxes for the second quarter of 2022. I found an IRS notice in a pile on the desk with penalties for the fourth quarter of 2021 of $12,000. I contacted the IRS on your behalf. There were actually 3 penalty notices outstanding. The one from 2017 had never been responded to, and you are now in a civil penalty phase for $160,000 with respect to that penalty. You are out of the appeals process. However, I asked them to send me a transcript of the notices so that I can try to get you abated from that penalty. They said there is slim to none chance that that will happen, but I will file that appeal on your request on your behalf. The other 2 issues I have resolved with the IRS. As I said, I'm working on cash reconciliations because most of your bank accounts haven't been reconciled since 2019. So what that means is I can't give you any assurance that the information in your systems from 20 and 21 and 22 through current are accurate. I did find that you had unclaimed funds with the state of Pennsylvania. So I requested those unclaimed funds be returned to you. Today, I received 2 checks in the amount of $15,000 from 2 of the 5 vendors. I also received letters from that vendor saying that you had another $40,000 in unclaimed funds at their offices, and I filed a request for those funds on your behalf. I've been coordinating documents for some of your ongoing litigation, answering multiple questions from department heads. I did your PCORI filing that was due for June 30th. I've met with RVTA on multiple issues regarding cash reconciliations and pensions. I've resolved some 2017 tax issue audit issues for you with the state. I've been meeting, I met with both Liz, the mayor, and the treasurer regarding cash and investment options. I'm working with M&T on getting your bank administration transferred, and I'm working on an internal purchasing policy. So that's what I've done over the past month. The second question was one of your multiple questions was how much have you been billed? You have not. The bill is actually in my system to be approved. I haven't even looked at it yet. So I'll be looking at that probably in the next day or 2 and getting you a bill for those for the past month, because our agreement is that you're billed once a month. Yet to be completed, pension calculations. I've been requested to do numerous military buyback pension calculations and drop calculations. Those have not been addressed yet. Molly and I met this morning on those to get a game plan going. So even though the bank reconciliations are being worked on, there's multiple transactions that need to be recorded from those. The budget worksheets for non-general fund have to be prepared, and I need to continue to dig through piles of paper that continue to sit in the office.
Hey, Eric, can I interject one quick question?
Absolutely. I think we all have a lot.
Well, in light of that summary, Tracy, what do you think of the workload in our finance department? Is it a 2-person finance department?
No.
Yeah, that was kind of what I wanted to know. Okay. How many people do you think we should, rationally speaking, have in the finance department to complete the workload that we generally have there?
Okay, so I would say that you have a need for an intern, an intern or a very base level person. I see Kristen sitting there stuffing envelopes, and I just cringe. Like, she's got skills and abilities above stuffing envelopes. Also, from a paperless environment, you could use somebody just to scan documents. My gosh, she has documents that are just piling up that need scanned. So that's sort of a lower level need. Your mid-level need is Kristen plus, you know, a finance director. At some point, they can keep you going day to day. If you could find somebody with a skill level above intern to do processing of paper, that would be helpful, because Kristen knows your system at this point and is able to keep it going, but she's doing a lot of phone calls, a lot of following up with people that if you had somebody with just a data input skill set, she could, that person could then take that workload off of her, because she's working an awful lot of hours.
Well, I had a couple, I mean, initially, I had two specific questions which related to software upgrade and internal control, you know, checks and balances within finance, and a more general question, which you've pretty much answered, where we're at, where we need to go, and how long it's going to take us to get there. But you're still digging in. So basically, I think you're kind of, I see it like we're at triage right now till the patient's in critical condition. Until we get out of that, you know, how we resolve the other items will fall into place. But that's just my observation.
And we are simultaneously reviewing finance and HR software. We're working with Cdbg via our financial strategic plan that was completed earlier this year. Cdbg is working with us on various financial and HR software packages. And so we've probably reviewed 8 or 9 at this point. We have 2 more to go that just came to our attention last week. Cdbg recommended one and Tracy recommended one to review. So once we review those final 2, we'll get a recommendation from Tracy and also from Cdbg, working with those folks, and we'll bring that to council's point as well. And that's, since it's part of the strategic plan, Cdbg will cover 70% of that cost, which is why they're so in process to make sure that obviously their money's going to good use and we're getting a system that works for us, and we don't get too little or too much, but that we get the system that's going to work correctly. So they've been involved in that. Tracy's been involved with that, the department heads. And so, you know, as Tracy just mentioned, that's going to help a lot. The procurement process, you know, digitizing, you know, some of the financial files and all of that. So we're hoping sooner rather than later to get that out. I know we've been talking about that for a while and we're just about there, but you know, obviously we're not going to rush that, and make sure Cdbg is comfortable, that we're comfortable, and then obviously bring it to council for review.
That's all I have for now. I'll just listen and try to process all this.
Yeah. Okay, Eric, I think it swings back to you then.
When you were going through everything that you found so far, if you could back up just a little bit and just expand a little bit more upon the IRS penalty. You had mentioned $160,000 penalty from the IRS.
Yes. So when I called them on the initial notice, they explained that you had 3 outstanding issues. The $160,000 stems from the IRS not receiving your 2017 W-2s, 1095s, and 1094. They said that they sent the city multiple notices, and the city did not address any of those notices, and that's why it went to civil penalty. I did go to Old City Hall. I was able to find the 2017 W-2s, 1095s. I didn't see the 1094, but that's not unusual. It's just a summary form. And I was able to find a letter from the IRS that was opened that said you've received multiple 2017 notices and we have not heard from you. So I can't explain why it was never addressed. All I can tell you is that it's now in civil penalty, and unless we can explain that there's an extreme reason why the city did not respond for multiple years to those notices, they will not waive it.
And how much in total do we have in uncollected or unclaimed funds from the state? You had mentioned 45,000 from one particular vendor.
So when you draw it down, they don't tell you, they just tell you who the vendors are. They don't tell you how much it is. So like I said, I was excited. I thought I was going to get a check for like $2. And I was kind of excited when I got the checks for 15,000 today, and was notified of more. So there's still should be 3 vendors sending us checks. I'll be sure to let you know how much those are when we receive them. I don't know.
What is
So
it?
What's that, Eric? Sorry.
No, that's great. And then the last question that I have is, obviously it's been 30 days now, roughly. Regardless of whether or not we're on the exact timetable for billing, I would like to see what we are at come the council meeting on Thursday. And I would also like to know what the plan is, obviously with the triage being the main part of it, but what the main plan is going to be for the next 30 and 60 days going forward.
Sure, we can have that.
Yeah, I think the most important element of this, Eric, is, I mean, right, Tracy, this is not in any way questioning either your abilities or your suitability for the job, because clearly you're doing an excellent job. But if we were to pay Tracy for 40 hours a week for the entire year, Derek, that would be a $300,000 chunk of money. So I think the primary question from the finance committee is, how are we paying for this?
Right.
If Tracy were simply finding funds that people owed us, then obviously she could pay for herself. Right. But at this point, it looks like at best it's going to be a wash between the IRS and the other entities. So,
yeah. So right now it's funding out of the remainder of Joe Pavlak's salary for remainder of this year that he had this year. Trace and I did talk about that. So obviously she's going to keep a pulse on it. We'll keep a pulse on it. We'll have it for you Thursday night. But the plan moving forward, obviously, is just to keep Tracy here, as long as we can to get this situation rectified. Obviously it is, we have to look at the money, but either way, I mean, you're going to need someone of Tracy's caliber here to get us out of this situation. So, once we hit the cap, so to speak, of the remainder of the salary line item, it'd be
I think we're going to get that this month, Derek. I'm just.
No, she's not here.
I am not here 40 hours.
Yeah, she's not here 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. She's done all this. She is amazingly efficient. So the time that she
I can tell that, but I think we can't expect to make a hire like that. No offense.
Oh, right. But my point being, it's not 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So,
right.
It's not going to be, $100,000 a month or anything like that. But we'll keep a pulse on it. We'll have it for you Thursday night, and then we can once we get to that point, reconvene, and because again, whether we have to do a line item transfer once Tracy has everything figured out and see where we stand, and if we need to transfer a line item into the salary line item, and we can bring that before council. Plan right now is to get all this squared away as quickly as possible, which is why she's trying to work as quickly as possible through all of this. But that's the plan for now, and Thursday night we can discuss it further.
Right. Well, I guess what I would appreciate is the next finance meeting, which is in the beginning of September. I think what would be exceptionally helpful, I would guess that 3 more weeks, Tracy, will give you time to get enough of a handle on our finances that, Derek, in 3 more weeks, I can maybe not guarantee you, but I can tell you after the 2-month mark, we are going to have exceeded the remainder of Joe Pavlak's salary line. And so in 3 weeks' time, I think it would be helpful for us to have a place that we are planning to take the remainder of the funding from. Because that's, when you ask us to pass this contract on Thursday, part of the issue is how are we paying for it? right? And I understand that our finances are a mess, and I understand that we don't necessarily know. But what I can tell you is that I will feel more comfortable if we say in 3 weeks' time the administration will have isolated the pot of money that we happen to have that is going to that we are going to take Ms. Rash's invoices out of. And perhaps it would be great at that point to have a timeline saying this is the work that we see as being an immediate need, and then we can basically look at this as a retainer contract for exceptional needs, right? But because the other thing that I think that we need to be doing ASAP, Derek, even though I also don't know where the funding for this is coming from, is we need to make a hire in the finance department. Because it would be foolish on our part to let Tracy work for the next 3 months in the finance department sorting things out, and then expect somebody else to walk in and continue as though, and not that you wouldn't leave things in order, Tracy, and that things wouldn't be relatively explicable, but I don't think that it should be sort of a turnkey operation, where somebody else walks in and Tracy walks out, because I think that would set that person up for failure. So, and I mean, an intern would be fantastic. I'm not exactly certain. I'm not certain what programs locally we could look for someone who'd be willing to basically be an intern with the city out of. But I'm sure that there should be something. And certainly we've been in extensive discussions with Lycoming College for a while now about a number of things. So that might be an appropriate thing to put a bug in somebody's ear about tomorrow at the ERC meeting, Eric.
Lycoming College, we actually have had interns from them. I had one in my office, so they have an internship program. So we have that
Right.
connection already ready to roll. So when they come back to the fall,
maybe their entrepreneurship program or something like that. I don't know. I'm trying to think what programming at Lycoming College would be best suited to, somebody who'd want to work in the finance department. But certainly I think it would be an exciting time to be an intern in the finance department if we're busy. Tracy smiles. Yes, it's been exciting, hasn't it?
Like a roller coaster, out of control.
And she does part of what she's done in other municipalities, to your point, Councilwoman Mealy, is transition, come in, to the municipality, work on their financial issues, and then transition to a new individual. So she's done this before. It's not, like you were saying, you don't want somebody to just come in and be like, okay, see you later.
Right.
She's done this, and she'll work with us to identify that person, locate that person, and then bring them in. And also, as was mentioned earlier, she does a review of the finance department and makes recommendations. So, which was already discussed earlier. So I think it is a conversation we've had. I know 2 years ago during the administrative code, we talked about that because the director of finance is not a salary line item at this point.
Right.
We have it in our administrative code, but there's no salary line item. I have reached out to other third-class cities, and I've started to compile a list of the director of finance and the salary for them. And I will say it is around $100,000. I think it's around $102,000 right now for, and I've everywhere from all the different cities around the Commonwealth. So anyway, I'll have all that information for City Council for us to have that discussion at the right time. But I agree that, I think the director of finance is needed, and a few additional personnel in the finance office. Obviously, I'm realistic. I don't think we're going to hire like 5 new people next year, but maybe 1 or so each year until we get to whatever the recommendation might be. But I know those discussions are down the line a little bit, but that's just for us to start thinking about now. And I know, Councilwoman, you wanted to start to meet to go over the budget, and we can do that as well. I think that is.
Should we put that also on the agenda for that first meeting in September?
Sure, we can do. As she noted, she started to meet with both chiefs, Chief Snyder and Chief Onks, starting to get not just the general fund, but also the capital budget. We're working around that, and we can discuss that in September 1st too, because Tracy's been working through some of the capital budget items.
Yeah, I would actually be interested perhaps in discussing that in the interim. If you guys are available, I think the capital budget deserves more attention than we've given in a long time. But clearly, like a lot of things, I would prefer not just to get the first draft. I would like to talk about what things we're thinking that we're trying to work into it. Obviously, the ARPA funding is, I would expect, going to modify the capital budget a little bit. So it's also going to have to look a whole lot different. Anyway, okay.
But
Then,
yes, we can talk about that. So if we just want to schedule a meeting,
yeah, we got 3 weeks, man, and all that's going on is Little League. And so, but yeah, I guess that's just something that I wouldn't mind being involved in. I can't speak to other members of council, but just kind of understanding what the thought is on the capital budget moving forward, and what projects we're hoping to get in there. But yeah, I think it would be good to have an initial discussion on the budget, especially if we can vis-a-vis public safety, because I think those are the departments with the largest needs at the beginning of September. And and then a discussion on what our intentions are within the finance department, and maybe a timeline for not necessarily transitioning Tracy out, but transitioning someone else in, so that we can start to feel like we've got an employee who's getting a handle on things. But okay. And then Janice, if you could make a note of both of those on the agenda for beginning September, just so that I don't forget, how I am. That'd be great. And
I wrote it down already, Liz.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Then I don't think Randy, Eric, do you have other questions yet on this item?
Not at this time.
Okay. Randy, anything else that you'd like to?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Got it. Let me double check here just to see. I know I'd heard some questions from other folks. Got it. Okay. Derek, you checked with our legal team and made certain that, it's not exceptionally unusual for us to receive a contract sort of mid-contract plan, but usually we would at least have some sort of agreement to it prior to seeing it in front of council. We're okay to pass a contract that that's backdated to June.
Yep, Austin reviewed it. Yep, he looked at it. We're good.
Got it. All right, and then Tracy, I don't know where you live, but just so I get a sense of, we know what the actual fees are for Tracy's services, but in terms of, I think there were some potential termination fees mentioned in the contract, and then also I don't know exactly what that would be, but then also reasonable, like are you staying in a hotel when you're staying in the city, Tracy, and is that being billed as well? Okay.
To answer 2 questions. The first is that termination fee. That is standard language for my company. If you look in the actual contract, we both have the right to terminate right away. So there's no fee associated with that, except for costs that have been incurred to date. So that's just standard language. You can feel free to cross that out if that makes you uncomfortable to have that in there. I have a number of clients that just cross that out.
Okay.
It's fine.
Sounds good.
I think I'm going to take it out of future contracts, because it seems to be, it's just standard wording that my company uses, but there is no termination fee. We both have the right to terminate immediately upon notification. And the second question was what? I'm sorry.
Second question was just, in addition to the hourly fees that are agreed to in the contract, what do you estimate that our other fees, board, et cetera, are currently?
So there are nights when I do spend the evening in Williamsport. I do live in Harrisburg, so I spend the evening in Williamsport because I'm here multiple days in a row. And meals, but they're in accordance with the GSA.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. But so we have some exposure for outside of specific hourly services. Got it. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to seeing the sort of initial month's bill and getting a better understanding of it from there, but just trying to understand what our cost was. Okay. I think that's everything that I have in terms of finance questions. And if no one else has anything else, then sorry, I'm still getting used to this whole not voting thing. I guess we'll move on. Um, just a moment. Okay. Item number 2, a resolution to increase internet service. Mr. Black.
Yes, good afternoon. What this is a proposal to increase our internet speed, basically our upload speed, from approximately 30 megabits per second to 100 megabits per second. The monthly recurring cost is going to be $659.95. And there is a one-time charge also of $199 for the actual installation. This is being precipitated by the need when we go to the new WatchGuard system, which is based in the cloud, so we can have more of a real-time review of what's going on in our cars. Under our old connection, it just wouldn't be adequate to upload videos. It would take us hours to do it instead of moments. And unfortunately, there's no stop in between the 35 that we were getting and the 100. That's the next step up.
So just so I understand, what were we paying previously?
Nothing.
That was sort of what I thought.
Yeah. We were like, well, that was the last leg of the freebie stuffs that we were getting from Comcast.
Yeah.
And as long as there isn't a way in which we can, or there isn't any sense to only upgrading the police service, not the rest of the city.
No, it would be universal to everybody.
Well,
But
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, anybody will. I am not going to bottleneck it just to the police department. We're still going to have to save 100 megs down. Yeah, we're still going to have the 100 megs down like we currently have for browsing and so forth. It's just our upload speed needed to be increased to at least 50 megabits.
Got it. But I guess what I'm asking is, it wouldn't be cheaper if we were doing it for fewer people, correct?
No, it doesn't matter if it's for 1 or for 1,000.
Got it. Okay. Randy and Eric, I'm sorry, I just kind of jumped in there for a sec. What questions do you have?
The same what you asked, or the question of is these are new charges.
That is correct. Yes.
So yeah, so roughly close to $8,000 a year.
Yes, $79.19 and change.
Yeah. Is this forgive me if I missed it, it's a yearly charge, but is this for a period of time, or can they change it every year?
This is at least for the first 3 years.
3 years, okay. That's what I.
But I guess
It's listed in there someplace. Yeah, 36 months.
Okay.
Yeah. But is this like other Comcast agreements that we've all been party to, Mr. Black, where all of a sudden the charge doubles when your 36-month contract ends?
No, because if we get down to that point and they go to double it, we'll go with somebody else.
Okay, I'm just having watched my bills mysteriously increase from Comcast just on a personal level. I wasn't sure if government contracts have the same general.
Typically not that I've ever seen. And I personally haven't seen it on a personal level going up at all either. Of course, I just get the basic streaming service. Just give me.
Well, I should talk to you then.
Yeah, just give me internet and I'm happy. But if it's at 3 year point, or 30 months into it, we can start looking at negotiating it again. Say, how can we bring this down a little bit? Keep the same price, but give us more speed. Which is typically what's been happening with a lot of places.
We find other providers. We can compare prices, correct?
Yeah, at that point we could. The big thing here with these guys, the installation charge was so minimal.
Yeah.
Other people wanted to charge, I know, anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000 just to install it.
Wow. So $200 is not a bad charge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what would the monthly cost have been with the other purveyors?
Very comparable. I mean, within like $10, $15. So it wasn't really that much of a savings to go with anybody else,
That makes sense.
considering what the upfront fees were going to cost.
Right. Well, Comcast has basically all the infrastructure in place already, correct? That's-
Exactly. That's why it's only $200. You're only coming from the street in.
Got it. So what are we losing in the contract services line item, Mr. Black, if we're like,
I'm
I'm
not
assuming
sure,
we're-
to be honest with you, because I have never gotten a breakdown of what's all in that contract services.
Huh.
So I just know that I've got money in there. Let's use it. So
Okay. All right, sounds good. And we are, I mean, I understand this is an IT thing, but it should to a certain extent. We're doing it exclusively because of the needs of the police department, correct?
yes, because moving forward with the new watch guard systems, this is something that we're going to want to have in place. So it's not tying up the rest of it for everybody else to use.
Right. So this is basically an additional cost, if you will, to the body cams.
I'm sorry, say that again. I missed part of it.
This is an additional cost to the watch guard system. If you-
Yes, because of the watch guard system, we're needing to do this. Yes.
just something to bear in mind. I mean, yeah, not that it's necessarily optional, but just trying, I think, to wrap my head around the full cost of some of this, some of these items that we're now more or less required to do by convention. Okay, Randy, I'm sorry if I interrupted you. Did you have anything else?
I'm that's all I have.
Okay. All right, so we're pulling this out of contract services. What's going to remain in that line item then for this year, Chris? Or do you have any other things?
Yeah, if I had to guess. Look on the right screen, Chris. Depending on what else might have come out, approximately $130,000.
Got it. And we don't know why that was there.
Well, see, and I don't even know if that number is correct, because I know at one point salaries were pulled back out of that because the salary had been put into it when I was still at RBT. So
Yeah, that number is correct.
and I was never given an updated,
So you're going to take a visit to Miss Rash too, Chris.
Yeah, I asked her the other day about it. She goes, "It's such a mess that I can give you ballparks, but it'll be a best guess at best." So.
Okay, well, the best guess is better than nothing, I suppose. Okay, all right. I think we can safely assume that 130 is not left in that line item.
More likely not.
Yeah. I would guess that it's more like
Yeah, I'm just going by what the black and white is in front of me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. If I don't hear any further questions on this item, should we move on, guys?
I have one quick one.
Please.
If I may, Mr. Black, why the 100 megabits per second? When doing some quick math, 200 megabits per second looks like it's about $1,800 more. Would we benefit from future-proofing ourselves by spending a little bit more money now?
We could, but knowing how dire money is around here, I was trying to skinny it down as much as possible.
Would we be able to go back to that in say 24 months if we would need to?
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's just a change in service. There'd be no additional, changes in installation fees or equipment. It's just, they would say, okay, cool, here you go. Flip the switch.
Okay.
I was going to say, I think we're already doubling the capacity that we need, Eric. So
We're more than doubling, but just with those added videos, that can eat up a lot of bandwidth, and I just wanted to make sure we.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Chris said we need 50, right? And we're currently at 35.
They are recommending that we have at least 50.
Okay.
Right. So if we're getting 100, then chances are they might get us through the next 3 years before we need.
Maybe. I give Christmas.
Oh, that's so terrifying. All right. Okay. Then, Eric, are you satisfied on that point? Anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Then I think we will move on to the next item on our agenda. A resolution modifying the 2021 fiscal year CDBG action plan. Mr. Remy?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hey.
At some point, everybody's going to get tired of seeing this, but this all reverts back to the things we've been discussing for months, relevant to cleaning up our prior year's allocations and reallocating them, and the funding for the $700,000 for the fire apparatus. We've now held the required public hearings. It has been on the table for 30 days. We're bringing it to council for its final approval so that we can then submit the approved documents to Housing and Urban Development, and we can then cut the check for the fire department. Tyler Dombrowski is here from Cdbg. If there are further questions that council would like to ask.
Okay. I'll open it up. Randy, Eric, any questions?
I don't.
Nor do I.
Yeah, it was nice of Kyle to come. But this seems pretty cut and dried. There were no other changes made, correct? Skip, nothing's been modified that we weren't previously aware of, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same that we put before you 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Just a matter of going through the legal process.
Right. Understood. Then in that case, yeah, I don't think I have any particular questions either. I'm sorry for making our guest stick around so long to discover that.
He's here for the other one also. So
okay. All right. Then yeah, I think we can keep moving here. All right, a resolution to approve the fiscal year 2022 annual action plan for CDBG and home investment program. Skip, what would you like to tell us about that?
Well, very simply, we finally, with the assistance of Cdbg, who has been tasked by the city to manage the CDBG program for the 22 fiscal year. We have an action plan that is completed. It has been duly advertised. The public hearings have been held. And in actuality, the CDBG program was allocated $1,042,508, and the home program $272,211. We're looking at public facilities and infrastructure to the tune of about CDBG of $645,638. The housing rehab program with CDBG at $72,091, and home $202,711. Accessible housing CDBG program $40,359. Light elimination under CDBG $66,920. Home ownership under home $45,000, and in admin $208,500 from CDBG and $24,500 from home. This is very similar with some minor changes to what was presented back in November as part of our budget presentation to council. We've finally gotten to the point where we have completed the federal requirements to allocate the 2002 fiscal year allocation for the projects and get them entered into IDIS again. Mr. Dombrowski is here to answer any questions.
Okay. Eric, any questions from you?
Just not being familiar with this, is this something that typically takes this long from, say, November to now?
It should have never taken this long, Eric. With the lot loss of staff, we kind of got caught in a conundrum. So that's why we asked council, and council agreed that it was time to bring in Cdbg to help get us through this project. We're going to turn around and probably start talking about the 2022-2023 fiscal year here in the next couple of weeks. And I see Tyler back here shaking his head in the affirmative that we do not want to get caught with our proverbial pants down next year at this time. We want to have it done in time. Or more timely, I should say.
If I may just jump in to just make a quick comment. So there's about a 9-month window for the city to annually submit its Cdbg action plan, and the city's traditional schedule, thankfully, to submit the plan has been on a very proactive date. So the submission would have traditionally happened very early in HUD's acceptance window. This year, the city has gone very close to its deadline. The deadline's actually this next Tuesday. So we will just meet the deadline with submitting. And as Skip had mentioned, the city's going to need to turn right around and now submit its plan for 2023. So, as far as those conversations in the next couple of weeks, so we're back on the traditional schedule. That's certainly going to need to be a conversation that we all have.
Mm-hmm. But we think that we shouldn't have any problem meeting that traditional schedule.
No, I don't think so.
Eric? Sorry.
No, I didn't have any other questions.
Okay. I was curious to know how our allocation this year compared to prior years.
Well, I'll try to answer that. I don't have the specifics in front of me, but the CDBG program was down, I believe, in around 20,000 from last year's allocation, but the home program went up a little bit. So our numbers from this year to last year, Tyler, were not much different.
Yeah, just looking at our figures quickly, the city's allocation for CDBG anyways went down about 2%, which that's been the norm across the region with all of the communities that we work with. It's a correlation with the reduction of Congress and just the updates with Pennsylvania's population numbers, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. It seems that it is constantly going down a little bit, but there was a minute, I think there was a hiccup there during the pandemic where we received slightly more funding. So that was curious to see whether that trend was continuing or whether we returned to the old one. Okay. If I can ask a real quick, slightly off topic question. We had discussed it. Hang on, this isn't actually for you gentlemen anyway. Derek, are you still here?
Yes.
Quick question for you. We had discussed trying to augment the funds that we had within home for home buyer assistance with some of the ARPA funds. Have we abandoned that as a project? Are we working on that?
Yes, we're still working on that. No, we have not abandoned that. Skip and I actually were just talking about that not long ago. So no, we have not abandoned that, and that's still on our radar.
Okay. Good, because I thought that was actually an exciting possibility. Just wanted to make sure that it was still on the radar out there somewhere.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Returning to the thanks, Derek. Returning to the agreement or to the action plan. Everything else looks pretty standard. Skip, is there anything?
Nothing out of the ordinary, really, Liz.
Yeah.
It's pretty much standard what we've been seeing for years.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We just want to be better organized, and we want to get this process started and get the advertisements and the public participation. We want to improve that if we can.
Right. But it seems as though our partnership with Cdbg is going well. Is that something we anticipate?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good. All right. And Tyler, from your end, is everything going smoothly? Is working with the city been relatively straightforward?
So far, so good. myself, and my boss, Terry Provost, have a lunch meeting with Skip and the mayor in 2 weeks to discuss the future of what our role potentially looks like. So it'll be interesting to see where that conversation goes. We're looking forward to it.
Okay. All right. We'll certainly keep us surprised if depending on how the relationship is changing. But okay, we'll look forward to hearing more about it later. Randy, Eric, any further questions? Randy, I don't think I ever asked if you had any questions. I'm sorry.
No, everything was answered. I know we've had a lot of transition in our department there, and Skip's had to deal with a lot of that, and hopefully we'll get past that part, and sounds like we'll be on firm footing going forward. It's the best we can do right now.
Yeah, I'd agree. All right, well, if I'm not hearing any other questions, then shall we move on?
Yes.
That's all right.
Thank you, everybody.
Either way. All right, Mr. Livermore, you're next on deck here. Item number 5, resolution authorizing the City of Williamsport Public Works to utilize Arca memorial pool funds for the pool membrane and memorial pool. Now explain to us for public understanding the point of the 2 resolutions.
You're muted, Scott.
There we go. Everybody can hear me?
All right, yep.
So what you have before you is a resolution authorizing the City of Williamsport Public Works Department to utilize ARPA for the memorial pool funds and the pool liner membrane. Obviously, everybody's aware we're up and running. Happy, thank God. Pool liner's in. So I did 2 resolutions because I looked back on December 2nd's council minutes, and there was discussion between council that, there was one was recommended that he would look into a 60-40 split. The other one was trying to keep 50,000 in the memorial pool account. So I did 2 of them. One was based on a 60-40 split, and then one was to keep 50,000 in there. So the 60-40 split would have been using 84,540.67 out of ARPA funds. And then that would leave the remaining money. There would be $45,930 remaining in the pool account if we would go the 60-40 split. Rushing around in the last 12th hour to realize that there was $12,500 that was paid back in April 25th that I was unaware of. So our remaining balance that we owe the pool people right now is $127,951.82, which really doesn't mean a whole lot other than we would take $12,500 out of the ARPA in either account. So where you see 84,540, which would turn into 71,590.67. The same with option 2, it would just, instead of 93,222, it'd be 80,722. So that's what I'm thinking would have to come out of the ARPA funds. And then obviously you guys have the packet in front of you. I'm struggling to, like I said, to find out what was going on until the 12th hour, about 30 minutes ago, and talking to some people. So is there any questions that I can help better answer?
If I could just chime in real quick, just at the time, I think it was discussed that once the invoice came, once we had everything finalized, it circled back around to council for discussion on, what would come out of ARPA and what would come out of the pool account, the donated fund. So that's the reason for the 2, basically to say, how would council like us to move forward with the split between ARPA and the donated funds.
Got it. So how much is in the memorial pool fund right now? It's like 110, 115?
The latest update that I went down and talked to Kristen about to have her pull me some numbers, I think it's around 102
Okay,
91.
got it. So if we took the 52 out, that would leave us with 50,000, more or less in there.
Yes.
Okay. I would say, Scott, I think your numbers are slightly off. That second resolution with the 93 and the 52,
Mm-hmm.
that adds up to more money than the other resolution. One adds up to right around 141,000 and the other one adds up to 145 and change.
You
So 145.5. That's no big deal. I'm just saying that we need to, whatever the numbers are, we need to make sure they're 100% accurate.
We'll have to update the resolution anyway, Councilwoman, for
Yeah.
Thursday evening with the 12,500 that we just we found out about the ARPA. So we'll have that updated.
Yeah, just if our total amount owed is 127,000 and whatever else it was, then just as long as you can remember that up to that, that's my only concern. But Randy and Eric, do you have a strong opinion one way or the other? I mean, it's a difference of $4,000 coming out of the Memorial Pool Fund.
I don't have a strong preference, as long as the numbers match up. Yeah.
Right.
I agree with Randy.
Got it. My personal preference, Scott, I think, is to leave a little bit more in the Memorial Pool Fund and take a little bit more out of ARPA. But yeah, once again, this is not for $4,000. It's not a hill I'm particularly interested in dying on, or even really wounding an ankle on. So I think it's up to the administration. As long as you give us something on Thursday that adds up to that 127 that we're still obligated for. The $12,000, where did that come from, Derek?
That came out of ARPA.
That came out of ARPA. Okay. So yeah, as long as, right. As long as we are, right. As long as we're somewhere around the $55,000 mark at Memorial Pool, and then the remainder from ARPA, I think that sounds as though the Finance Committee will feel fine about it. And I would imagine the rest of council won't see anything particularly important there. I think everybody is just happy that it's done. Yeah. And Scott, the one other thing that we should mention, just for the sake of mentioning it, was that change order, right?
Yes. So
Mhm.
that change order, obviously, I probably should have put out something, but the time crunch that these guys showed up and saying, hey, you got 50 leaks. This is what it's going to be. And honestly, I didn't even have a dollar figure till I knew they were done. That's what it came out to, was $11,600 in change order fees to fix the 50+ leaks in the pool. They just, at the beginning, they just told me it's going to be $290 an hour for us to fix these leaks. And at that time, they didn't even know how many. So they kept tracing it. So I had to wait till they were actually complete before I even had a number. So I gave them the go ahead to, yes, well, obviously the pool can't run with these leaks. And if I would have lost them, I was afraid of never don't know when I'd get them guys back to do that. So that's what the $11,600 change order. What you see on your papers is $11,796 due to the $196.11 of grading I had to get for the pool too, that they supplied for me. So that's where we're $11,796 in change order cost. But like I said, it was something that was unforeseen. That's when we came in and did the original contract with $129,000, do not exceed that. No one knew until they actually threw their tester up to pressurize that to see what we were getting into. And a few days later, they've said, it's like a piece of Swiss cheese. We got to fix it. So that's when I didn't go ahead to get everything sealed up so we can move forward.
All right. Yeah, that seems, given how difficult it's been to get pretty much anything accomplished this entire summer, Scott, I think that seems perfectly understandable. But Eric and Randy, did either of you have any questions about that in particular? The change order?
No.
Okay. All right, great. Then Randy, we will see you later at this point, and I think that pretty much takes care of this item. Scott, to recap, I don't feel as though the committee had a strong feeling one way or the other on which one you do. So that's somewhat up to the administration. Just you know, if it's between $52,000 and $56,000, that's chump change. So, however, if there's some way that it seems more logical to you guys, go with that.
All right.
Okay. All right. And the final, not quite action item on our agenda today is a resolution awarding the 2022 contracts for street line painting and bituminous seal coating for the city.
Yes, what you have before you is resolution awarding the 2022 contracts for the street line painting and bituminous seal coating for the city of Williamsport. For our line painting, it's D'Angelo's Contracting Services, which will be doing our painting in the amount of $20,684.18. They will roughly be doing painting 175,381 lineal feet throughout the city. For double yellow line, it's $1.45 lineal foot. For white line, it's 75 cents. Last year, so from last year to this year's price was we're increased 21 cents for the double yellow and 12 cents for the white. That's just what we've gone up.
Yeah.
Then any questions on line painting?
Eric, do you have anything?
I do not. I'm just looking at the numbers here and all seems pretty standard. But is this something, as I'm looking at this though, what I am curious about, the other municipalities that are listed here, I'm assuming they have contracts so that they're in the area. It's obviously less expensive that they're here and so on. Is it a volume kind of rate between us and these other municipalities?
Yeah, they kind of come in, they'll hit Lowestoft, Montoursville, Williamsport, they'll do all of us. This is just our rates. They got the same unit price there. They have less lineal foot or more, whatever we decide. Yep. It's usually every year the same lineal foot, doesn't really vary much. You can come in and touch everything up throughout the night and do it.
Scott, the only thing that I would ask about the street line painting, and I think I may have been saying this for several years now, but especially with the ARPA funding that we have, I've been advocating for what would be a pretty modest increase to the street line painting amount to add a bunch of bike lanes in the city of Williamsport and start getting those striped. We would obviously need to figure out a map of bike lanes. We have a bike committee that I think could do that for us. At least make some recommendations for streets that we should stripe. I can say, in my limited experience more recently, as mostly a driver in the city, but also as a cyclist in the city, demarcated bike lanes would make a big difference to how safe I think people feel riding cycles in the city. And they would also ideally help us to avoid some of the kind of flagrant violations of bike safety that we have in the city. You know, at least we give people a designated space where they're supposed to be. Yep. And then if they're not there, we can say, hey, you know. But anyway, obviously that won't happen for this year, but I would strongly encourage the administration to consider looking at augmenting this contract to include bike lanes for next year. The one thing I'm not certain, I see that currently everyone's basically white and yellow exclusively. We could clearly stripe in bike lanes in white or yellow, you know, either way. But I'm not sure whether the company has anything specific that they do for bike lanes that's not, you know, that's not part of the current contract, because we've never, no one in the area has contemplated it, you know, so far.
No, for sure. We can I can touch base with them and see if they have done that in any other municipalities and see what the rate would be for that.
Got it. Yeah, that'd be, I would really like to see that. And it's such a modest cost. And I think we could take it for the next 3 or 4 years out of ARPA at the bare minimum and possibly allocate it for future year contracts too. And it would really add to the both recreational, I think, and safety elements in the city. That said, do you want to talk about the bituminous seal coating as well?
Yes, which is Russell Standard Corporation. Basically, that's our company that comes in, tar and chips a couple of our streets. I'm trying to start working in some streets that been paved, 10 plus years ago, to try to get another 5 years of additional life out of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to put it on the paving list in another year or two. I can get 5 years out of it. Try to do that that way.
That'd be awesome.
They obviously from last year's rate to this year's rate, we're 18-cent increase on the square yard for that.
Got it. And where do we tar and chip? Is that mainly alleys in the city?
No, so like this year, I want to do Hillside up above Roosevelt towards the high
Okay.
school. We got some minor base repairs we got to do there, and then I want to tar and chip that. That should buy me some years up there to where we don't have to go in there. Up around James Road, there was a lot of alligator cracking up through there that we're going to do some base repairs and get that tar and chip to hopefully buy us some years. That road is actually, I think, 18 years been being paved. So if I can get it fixed up, tar and chip it, I can get another 5 out of it, which is, beneficial for paving, the cost of paving anymore. So that's my goal, is to try to do a couple different streets a year to get caught up. And that amount value was $32,032.32.
Right. Oh, well, that sounds like a good plan to try to at least elongate some of our street lives. Eric, do you have any questions about that element?
No, I agree with you. It's a very good plan for those kinds of streets that aren't traversed as often.
Yeah, and that we can hopefully extend the life a bit. I guess I was concerned. We did tar and chip on an alley behind a property I own on 4th Street, and I wasn't certain how useful that was because the alley's in pretty rough shape, and I don't think the tar and chip approach was necessarily useful there. But if we're doing it on roads that are in slightly better shape, I think that will make a big difference.
Well, the other thing with tar and chip too, you got to think about the more traffic gets driven on it, it gets beaten down. It almost turns into a blacktop top. So if you do it on an alley, it doesn't get a whole lot of traffic. All the small fines and 1Bs that they put on top necessarily wouldn't get heated up and beat in to create a new surface. Like when they do, like PennDOT does it on their main streets or the main runs, they'll do it out in front of Up Dockery's running. That's, you don't even know it's ever been done because of the type of traffic that gets. The volume helps it even better to knit it all in, seal everything off for moisture getting under. That's what happens. So moisture will get underneath these cracks, freeze, make all these potholes. So if I can seal it off by the tar and chip, that alleviates water from getting down in, penetrating the surface, and then therefore the potholes don't come back as easily as they would on a street that's not taken care of.
Got it. Okay. Well, you do have an impressive background in paving, Mr. Livermore.
A little bit more than I like to say I do.
Oh, thanks for the brief education there. That was helpful. Okay, all right, Eric. If you don't have any other questions on this, then I think we can probably conclude this item. Is that all right by you?
That is correct. That is all right by me.
All right. Then the final item on our agenda is any related items. I think we've discussed a number of related items in the course of the meeting already. But Mayor Slaughter, Tracy, anybody out there have anything to introduce? All right, hearing nothing, Eric, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. I'll see you on Thursday in person. Have a great couple of days.
You too.
Yeah, bye-bye.